will be conducted by roll call vote. All right. That is the boilerplate. So ask that we begin the meeting by pledging allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I just want to remind folks, I know there's a lot of people checking in tonight for the public hearing. So I want to let everybody know that we'll begin the public hearing on the warrant at 7 o'clock. And at this point in time, we'll do some business, some finance committee business. And if we finish early, we will recess until 7 o'clock, where we'll begin the public hearing on the warrant. All right. So the first thing on the agenda is approval of minutes of July 14th and July 11th. I mean, August 11th, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll make a motion
Dr.
to
White.
approve the minutes of July 14th, 2020.
All right. There's a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Motion is seconded. Any questions about the minutes of July 14th? That was when we balanced off the request for line item changes for the FY20 budget. All right. Hearing none, then I take a roll call vote. Dr. Ward?
Aye.
Mr. Quartz?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Delay?
Aye.
Okay. And the chair votes aye. We have a 5-0 vote. All right, and the second set of minutes is from the meeting of August 11th.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of August the 11th, 2020.
All right, here a motion, here a second.
Second.
Mr. Quartz, thank you. Any questions or discussion about the minutes? All right, hearing none, then I take a vote, roll call vote. Dr. Ward? Dr. Ward?
Aye.
Nope. Mr. Quartz?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Delay?
Abstain.
Yes. All right, and the chair votes aye. That's a 4-0 to 1. Okay. All right. All right, next item on the agenda are the year-to-date reports. We've got year-to-date reports from Mrs. Gogan for the month ending the end of August. And of course, we're still operating on the 1/12 budget. So numbers look a little bit different than they normally do. Mrs. Gogan also gave us a little explanation about some of the line items that were overdrawn.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
on the August 11th, 2020 meeting, we talked about the police dispatch overtime seemed really high at 1,800. You were going to speak with Ms. Gogan. Did you get a chance to do that?
If I did, I forget what you told me.
I can relate.
Yeah. So let me ask her that question and see if I get you an answer.
I'm thinking that we're probably short on per diem dispatchers, and they've had to use regular dispatchers, which would result in overtime.
Overtime,
But it would be good to know for sure.
yes.
Hang on, honey.
It's kind of early in the month for that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Isn't Maureen Ward a dispatcher herself? Shouldn't she recuse herself from that discussion?
I'm not a dispatcher, Mr. Dilwart.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Dodd, if you speak out of turn, again, I'd ask you to stop speaking out of turn. Raise your hand when you're recognized and you can speak. And there's an
I did
opportunity-
have my hand raised.
Okay, but I guess just to make clear about the agenda, we go through our agenda, and then at the end of the meeting, there's an opportunity to ask those questions, rather than have questions asked as we work our way through the agenda. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know that Joanne explained it a bit, the issue about the fire houseman and how that account, it has to do with some changing in the accounting that I think probably has to do with the fact that we're no longer using the grant to offset some of the costs of the firemen. I think it's budgeted okay. It's a question of which account it's in.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
was there also not a case here of a houseman that was off on medical or had been injured, so they were covering, which created a bit of a confusion with line items?
yes, that's part of it. Yep. And that could be all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the revenues were obviously very, very preliminary. We don't usually start seeing any entries into that until we get into late September,
Right.
early October, before they start adding money into that.
And I do appreciate Ms. Goglin's little cover sheet because it helps.
It does. It does. And I haven't had a chance to speak with Superintendent Landers at all about a couple of the things that we had some questions on. I really think that right now, some questions on
Yeah.
the 2-month-old budget is kind of premature with the issues that she's got to deal with right now.
Her plate is full.
Yeah, yeah. Need to move that down the road. Any other questions on the year-to-date reports?
Is there any, maybe Mr. Hickey knows, when we're going to be closing out last year's?
Keith? No, you're muted. Yeah. So,
Can you hear me now?
yes,
Okay, sorry. The auditors will be here starting on Monday. So as far as the accounting department's done, I believe they've closed fiscal 20, and the audit, as I mentioned, will begin next week.
any other questions on the year-to-date reports? All right, I'm hearing none. I wanted to bring to your attention the this year's Association of Town Finance Committees annual meeting. It's a little different this year, as everything is, in that it's not going to be done live or in person. It's going to be conducted remotely. It's an annual conference for town finance committees. I've attended several of them, and I always find them informative. I think that the opportunity this year, before we do the information, so you'll be able to access it yourself. is they're going to set up 3 different sessions of workshops, and on 3 different dates. So the time commitment is a little more flexible than it typically is, giving up a Saturday and driving halfway across the state to attend the meeting. So I think it's a good year for any of you who haven't had an opportunity to attend this conference, to do it, because you can do it remotely, you can do it smaller bites, and the fee is $25 per finance committee member, which is usually, that's about half the price it usually is. It's usually about $50. So there's no lunch involved. But so I just wanted to bring that to your attention and let you know that if you are interested in attending one or any of those sessions, and particularly for the newer members, I'd really encourage them to do the first session that John Kadia does, his annual Budgeting 101 session. It's a lot of nuts and bolts about finance committees and how they work. And so if you have an opportunity to take advantage of that one, I certainly encourage it. I know I'm going to look at the last one they have, but I haven't got it squared away yet, but it has to do with school finances. And certainly there's a lot of issues right now with schools and education. So that's one I think I'm going to try to attend. But we do have money budgeted for conferences. And so if any of you are interested in doing it, you can register yourself and we'll reimburse you for the $25. Any questions about that?
Maybe, Mr.
Yes.
King, you could go through the dates again of each one, and except
Sure.
for the last one, do we know what the second one is?
Yeah, the second one, let me just walk through. The first one, which starts on Thursday, October 22nd. And that's the one with John Goodyear. He's the Northborough town manager, town administrator. And as I said, he does an overview of the role and responsibilities of the finance committee. It's going to last about 90 minutes. So it's a 7 o'clock in the evening to 8:30. So you don't have to take time off from work. The second one is October 29th. And this will feature Commissioner Sean Cronin, who's the head of the Division of Local Services Bureau for the Department of Revenue. And he will highlight best practices and address some of the issues that finance committees face. And certainly, again, with the fiscal situation, the realities that the state is dealing with, it's a timely workshop to attend. And then the last one is scheduled for November 12th. And the latest memo I had gotten from the association is that they're still being finalized, but it is going to focus on schools and education. So there's 3 different workshops, 3 different nights. And as I said, it's a good opportunity to be able to take advantage of that without having to drive down and commit a day.
25 each or 25 total?
There's 25, the event fee is $25. So I'm assuming that's all 3 of them.
Good
Yeah.
deal, thank you.
Yep. As I said, it's about half price of what it usually costs.
Yeah.
So Mr. Kent, you had a question, Keith, or comment? You're muted.
Mo just asked it for me, Mr. Chair, so we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, are there any other questions on that? All right, then I would entertain if there's anybody in the public that has a question about the articles that we just, the agenda items that we just covered. This is your time. All right. And hearing none, as I said, we're going to begin the public hearing. It's at 7 o'clock. The way that'll work, a little bit different than the way this meeting works. We'll go through the warrant articles one by one, and I'll read the articles. I'll give the presenter of the articles, most of them are the town manager, an opportunity to add anything he wants to add or in a way of clarification. Then we open up to the public. So in that portion of the meeting, after each article, there'll be an opportunity for people to ask questions or make comments. So that part of the meeting will, as I said, run a little bit differently than our typical meeting does. After the public hearing, after we've covered all of the articles, then the Finance Committee will deliberate and make recommendations on each of the warrant articles. And that would be the conclusion of our meeting, although there'll be an opportunity after we do that for anybody in the public to ask questions or make comments. So we've got about 10 minutes, 8 minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'll
yes.
make a motion that we recess for
I've
9
got
minutes.
somebody that's got his hand raised now.
Okay.
Mr. Dort.
I'm sorry, I left that on from before. My apologies. I forgot to take it off. Thank
Okay,
you for
listen.
looking, though. My apologies.
Okay. Then, Ms. Ward?
I make a motion that we recess for 9 minutes.
All right, Dr. Ward, thank you. Then we'll recess for 9 minutes and then we will begin the public hearing. Thank you. All right, I've got 7 o'clock. So I'd like to call the Finance Committee back into session. I see everybody's still muted. Hmm. All right. See, Superintendent Landis has joined us. So it's a public hearing. It's a public hearing of the special town meeting and the annual town meeting scheduled for September 28th. And the way we'll work through this is I will go through the articles. I'll read the articles and invite the presenter of the article to speak to it, the submitter. And then for each article, see if there's any questions or comments that anybody has. And we'll move through the town meeting that way. All right. So the first warrant is the special town meeting warrant. And there are 2 articles of the special town meeting. Article 1 is to see if the town will vote to hear and act on the reports of the Finance Committee. I can tell you that the Finance Committee will not have a report for the special town meeting. Second article is to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $6,141.75 for the payment of bills for fiscal year 2020 in the town of Winchendon. Specifically, there is a bill from Amazon for $385, second one from Amazon for $244.32, one from Verizon for $277.72, one from Dr. Vorderstrass for $20, one from St. Elizabeth Medical Center for $186.71, and Partners Healthcare for $5,028, for a total of $6,141.75. So I'd invite Mr. Hickey to please speak to that article.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we had 6 bills that came in after the close of the year. As I think everybody's aware, we've got to present these as a request in a separate financial article to needing 4/5 vote to seek approval to pay for these. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has on any of the information.
All right. The Finance Committee members first. Is there anybody in the Finance Committee that has a question for Mr. Hickey? All right, hearing none, I'd open this up to the floor. Is there anybody in the audience that has a question for Mr. Hickey on Article 2? All right, hearing none, we'll move along. That's the end of the special town meeting. We'll move on to the annual town meeting. Article 1 is to see if the town will vote to hear and act on the report of the Finance Committee, the annual report of the Selectmen, and any other officers or committees required to report to the town. The Finance Committee, typically, certainly for the last several years, has had a report for the town, and I expect that we'll have a report for the town as well. We don't usually determine what the focus of that report is until we've finished having the public hearing and making recommendations on the warrant articles. Any comments or questions? All right, moving along to Article 2. See if the town will vote to choose all other town officers and committees that may be required or deemed necessary to the town for the ensuing year, and to give instructions to the same or to any other town officer or officers and to discharge any committees that have completed their duties or act in relationship thereof. Mr. Hickey. Are there any committees that are impacted by this article?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I think we'll be able to pass over these articles.
All right. Anybody in the public that has a question or comment about this article? All right, hearing none. We'll move on to Article 3, the revolving funds authorization article. To see if the town will vote to fix the maximum amount to be spent during fiscal year 2021, beginning on July 1st, 2020, for the revolving funds established in the town bylaws for certain departments, boards, committees, agencies, and officers, and in accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53, E1-2, and take any other action. I'm not going to read through all of the revolving funds, their standing funds in your warrant. It lists them, it lists the department responsible for them, and it lists the spending limit. Anybody on the Finance Committee have a question?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I might ask through you to Mr. Hickey, are there any increases or decreases in any of these items, Mr. Hickey?
They are not.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public have a question or comment? All right, hearing none, we'll move along to Article 4. It's a senior tax work-off article. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from other available funds the sum of $8,800 for the senior tax work-off program. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you. This is a typical warrant article we've had, at least in my time here. The amount of $8,800 is the same as it has been for the last couple. This amount of money seems to be sufficient to allow any seniors who are in need of a senior work-off program to be able to take advantage of that program. So I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Anybody on the Finance Committee? Mr. Kent.
Yeah, just a question for Mr. Hickey. If we're going with the same number that we've had the last few years that you're comfortable with, what would you say is an average of enrollees utilizing this program available to them? Is it 10, 20? What would you feel an average is, sir?
It's below 10.
Below. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Yep.
All right, anybody in the public that has a question? All right, hearing none, move along to Article 5, nonprofit assistant article. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds sum of $25,000 as a grant to the nonprofit Community Action Committee of 273 Central Street, Winchendon, in consideration of the numerous services provided to the town. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think as everybody's aware, this organization, Community Action, provides a tremendous amount of support for those needs. The funding in $25,000 was a couple of years.
You've frozen up, Mr. Hickey.
They have been very, very slow months with the COVID situation. I look good, don't I?
Frozen in time.
Everybody else is frozen. I'm not frozen. Am I back?
Now you are.
All right, okay. Sorry. It means I should leave.
Yeah.
This community action program has done a tremendous job at providing support to residents in need. They've been exceptionally supportive over the last 6 or so months with the COVID situation that we've been dealing with and people who are in need for that and other needs. So I would strongly urge the Finance Committee to support the funding request for community action.
Thank you. Anybody on the Finance Committee have a question or comment? Mr. Kent? You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hickey, is this an increase from the previous amount of, was it possibly 17 or 18K before? I can't remember, sir.
It was $18,000 up until fiscal 20, I believe. Fiscal 20, it increased from 18 to 25.
So this is a number that management is comfortable with seeking at this point? I mean, were they looking for a little more when COVID-19 changed everything? Or how do they feel?
They have not come back and revised their request since the initial request was received when the budget process began the first time around a few months ago. So I think, I don't want to speak for community action, but they have not indicated that there's a need for any additional funding that I'm aware of.
Thank you. I was just concerned with the COVID and a lot of people out of work if they felt maybe this number wasn't sustainable. That's why I was just asking. Thank you.
Anybody in the public have a question for Mr. Hickey? All right. Hearing none. Move along to Article 6. It's a general government budget article. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from other available funds a sum of $15,254,266 for the operating budget of the town of the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020. I'm not going to read through the budget, but I will ask Mr. Hickey to add any highlights or summaries that he would like to share with you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This really is the same budget that was submitted to the Board of Selectmen back in, I guess, March for a June town meeting, or a May town meeting, excuse me. We've made a couple of minor changes. The fall festival that I had budgeted for $5,000 was in my budget. That's been removed. I've also increased the registration of voters' election expense line item by $12,000 because of the early voting that has been mandated by the state. So the overall budget the amount of request has not changed from what I submitted to the board a couple of weeks ago. We have worked with the school. John and I have worked together pretty closely to try to meet school department's needs, knowing there's so many things that are still variable with the school budget, whether it be transportation or whether they're going to be in person or remote, things of that nature. So I think I speak for both John and I when I can say that the amount of funding for the school department
You froze up again.
not changed from the original. I would like to point out that because there has been over 20 layoffs of paraprofessionals in the school department, our unemployment costs have increased pretty significantly from the original budget that I had presented to the Board of Selectmen a few weeks ago. So we had budgeted $45,000 originally. Now budgeting $205,000 in the operating budget for unemployment, as well as $250,000 I pledged out of our COVID funds, which are eligible to be used for unemployment costs as long as they're related specifically to COVID-related expenses, and this would be a great example of that. And then again, typically the unemployment for a school would be funded. The cost of that would be funded through the indirect costs of the school. So the only indirect costs being funded for the school is about $77,000 of the over 500 we've budgeted, allowing the school to keep the same bottom line appropriation as they had back earlier in the year. So hoping that the superintendent can work with those figures. I've also included a separate warrant article in the budget that you'll talk about in a couple of minutes, that I'm proposing to include in the Finance Committee's budget for emergency type COVID related expenses that frankly we may not know about at this point. The Department of Revenue Administration approved a request that had been submitted by the town, by me, with support of the Board of Selectmen, to see if we could access the deficit appropriation reserve account a year earlier, meaning fiscal 21, than the initial or the original deficit legislation language allowed. The Senate and the House have passed that, and we're allowed to access that those funds. So I'm proposing to appropriate those funds as an emergency type contingency funding amount in the Finance Committee budget, so that if during fiscal 2021 there are expenses that can't be absorbed by the existing operating budget, there may not be a need to have a special town meeting, and we'd be able to respond quicker to the needs by having those funds available for the department who's in need of those funds to come to the Finance Committee and request those emergency funds. If that makes any sense. That's really, I guess, the highlights from my point of view. I'm happy, again, if I've missed something or anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer any one of your questions.
All right, anybody on the committee have a question on the budget? Dr. Ward?
Mr. Hickey, for the COVID funds that we received from the government, do they have to be spent by December?
December 31st.
And is there any chance they're going to extend that, or will we need to have it extended?
They have not indicated that they are going to extend that. If you're asking me, can we spend it all before December 31st? If they aren't going to extend it, yes, we will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Mr. Delay.
Yeah, I don't know if this is for Mr. Hickey or Ms. Landers, but just for my own curiosity, I guess, how many school department employees were given notice of layoff, and how many of those were recalled?
Joan, you need to unmute yourself.
There was around 71. About 31 of the staff members have been called back. We are actually in the process of evaluating what support personnel we need for the district, because we were going into the hybrid model, and then we had to delay that till October 19th and be fully remote in the district. So we're still in the process of calling people back.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions from Finance Committee? All right, anybody in public have a question on the budget? All right, then I'm going to move along to Article 7. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $905,848 for direct costs of the Water Department Enterprise Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, and that indirect costs of $153,023 appropriated to the general government budget be funded by the water receipts. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you. Again, this is the same budget that was proposed earlier this year. As everybody's painfully aware, there needed to be a rate increase to both the water and sewer budgets. Those rate increases are reflected in the revenue side of this budget, and the revenues that we collect in fiscal 21 will support the budget that's been requested.
Any questions from anybody on the Finance Committee? Hearing none. Anybody in the public have a question or comment? Hearing none, move along to Article 8, which is the wastewater enterprise article, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $1,283,013 wastewater receipts of $973,013 and betterment revenues of $310,000 for the direct costs of the wastewater treatment department enterprise fund in the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020. That indirect costs of $138,825 be appropriated in the general government budget to be funded by the wastewater receipts. All right. Mr. Hickey?
So I guess the same explanation I gave for the water department. This
Okay.
is the exact same budget that was presented. The revenues are reflective of the rate increase that was approved by the Board of Selectmen a month or so ago, that will support the operations of the wastewater department.
Okay. Anybody on the committee have a question? Hearing none. Anybody in the public have a question? All right, we'll move along to Article 9, which is the transfer station enterprise article. See if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $190,482 from transfer station receipts for direct costs of the transfer station enterprise fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, and the indirect costs of $21,569 appropriated in the general government budget to be funded by the transfer station receipts. And again, any comments, Mr. Hickey?
Just the transfer station of the last couple of years has made a small profit, which is nice to see. We anticipate a small profit to be made here again. We have not proposed any rate increases for the wastewater, for the transfer station in fiscal 21. Al and his staff over there are doing a great job at managing that facility.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the Finance Committee? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, hearing none, we'll move along to Article 10. So was there
Mr. Chair, can I have a
somebody there?
question?
Somebody had a question? Could you state your name and your address, please?
This is Inanna Arthan, Lakeview Drive, 325 Lakeview Drive. This is actually a general question for all three of these enterprise funds. My understanding has been that under normal circumstances, or up until recently, the enterprise funds, water and wastewater and transfer station, have generally been self-supporting. In fact, I recall just a couple of years ago that we had so much profit in, I think it was the wastewater, that we were able to buy a new truck with some of the extra that was not used. And so I guess my question was, what has happened that situation has turned around and that we are now having to support the enterprise funds from the general budget?
Just to let Mr. Hickey clarify that, my understanding is that these budgets are funded strictly by the ratepayers for each of the enterprise funds, not the general public. But Mr. Hickey?
That's correct, sir, yes. And if I maybe could just try to expand upon that answer for a second for the person who asked the question, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, these funds have been using retained earnings. If you look back at warrant articles for the wastewater, water, and water department for a number of years, those funds have been using retained earnings, excuse me, to assist in balancing their budget. We did purchase a truck. I believe we leased a truck for the wastewater department because the truck that was being used could no longer pass inspection and was well beyond its useful life. The reason we leased the truck versus purchasing the truck was, you know, leasing prices right now are pretty low, so we can enjoy savings with regards to interest rates, and frankly, we didn't have the funds available to buy the truck outright.
All right. I know there's two people with their hands up. I'm not sure who you are.
My name is David Watkins. Is that, you see my hand up?
Could be David, could be.
Yes. I just have a question about the betterment fees for the wastewater. Could you please just explain that a little better to me? Who's paying these betterment fees? Are they people that are just starting to hook up? Or is this just a general betterment fee that everybody's going to have to pay?
Betterment fees were established as part of a project to extend municipal wastewater to different parts of town. The way that the town could afford to extend wastewater was to charge the homeowners along the route a betterment fee, calculated, based on I believe lot frontage and on the roadway itself. So those fees are paid strictly by the individuals or the property owners who utilize and connect directly to the wastewater line in front of their home.
So I'm sorry. So this doesn't mean these are new people hooking up. This betterment fee has gone on for many years,
Yes.
and is going to continue to.
It's in conjunction, the timing of the betterment fee is in conjunction with the debt that was taken out for the particular project. So for example, if this was a 10-year bond, the betterment would have been calculated for the property owners in all likelihood to be paid back over that same 10-year period.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hickey.
Okay.
There's one other person with a hand raised. If you could state your name and address. Oh, maybe not. Okay. So moving along to Article 10 is the education budget article. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds the sum of $13,787,063.32, which is the required net school spending of $16,828,037 plus $347,908.58 prior year override that included the 2.5% escalator, and increasing funding plus $50,000, which represents a portion of the solar pilot revenues for FY21, less $3,438,882.25 for net school spending and eligible indirect costs budgeted in the general government budget for the school expenses. For the operating budget of the Winchton Public Schools for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020. All right. Ms. Landis, you're muted. Nope, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you.
There you go.
I forget the mute button all the time, either to turn it off or put it on. I apologize. So I worked pretty closely with Mr. Hickey and the school committee. This is similar to the budget we voted at our budget hearing prior to the school closure. So I appreciate working closely, and I also worked with finance reviewing this prior to that. It seems like ages ago. I think I've aged 10 years since that time. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
I'd ask if anybody on the finance committee has any questions on the school department budget. Then I'll open it up to the public. If anybody has any questions. All right, hearing none, then we'll move along. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Landis.
very much.
Article 11 is the annual vocational technical school assessment. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $837,901 to fund the town's assessment for its share of the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st. I don't know if there's any comments that you need to make about the assessment, Mr. Hickey? No, okay. Anybody, any questions from anybody on the finance committee? Any questions from anybody in the public? All right, hearing none, we'll move along. Article 12, layout of Central Street. See if the town will vote to accept a portion of Central Street as heretofore laid out by the Board of Selectmen and shown in the plan of land entitled Central Street, Route 202 in the town of Winchendon, dated July 12th, 2016, prepared by Northeast Survey Consultants, said plan on file with the town clerk. All right. It's submitted by the Board of Selectmen, but I'll ask Mr. Hickey to speak to it. You're muted. Mute.
I know, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
As I think everybody's aware, with the diligence of Planning Director Tracy Murphy and Public Works Director Al Gallant, the town was put on the state's 10-year plan to construct Central Street at the tune of several $1,000,000. The town is paying very, very little towards the cost of that. In their final review of plans and things of that nature, what they found was that for some reason back a number of years ago, a small section of Central Street was never laid out, and the acceptance was never approved by the voters. So for the state to allow state funding to be expended, they need to have this section of road be owned by the town of Winchendon. So this warrant article is requesting that the voters of the community accept the small portion of Central Street that has not been able to be identified as being accepted in past history.
Any questions from the finance committee? I'm kind of curious, what part of Central Street is it?
I'm going to ask Tracy Murphy, who's here. She can give you a much more defined than I can. I'm sorry, Tom.
Okay. Tracy?
Hi there. I hope I'm coming through. The section of Central Street, the layout was never recorded, and it's from just before the Cumberland Farms entrance all the way up to just beyond the CVS, the first curb cut on CVS. So it's about a quarter-mile span.
Okay.
So there's no layout plan on file at the registry. And this would put a layout plan on file at the registry.
Okay, I think I understand.
You're saying Front Street to Maple Street.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Mo, you're muted.
I said the article says Front Street to Maple Street, which takes that whole section in.
Correct.
Well, this is Article 12, right? Oh, yeah. I don't see where it says Front Street to Maple Street.
That's Article 13.
Okay, but we're still on Article 12.
It's actually,
I mean,
if you, on the plan that it references.
So Article 12 and Article 13 obviously refer to the same project.
Correct.
But they're two different articles. One,
Correct.
it looks like one requires a simple majority. Article 13 is a capital article, which will require 2/3 vote. I'm correct so far, right? So that's why these two articles are addresses a similar issue or the same issue, but
No, if I could, Mr. Chair.
yes,
Article,
please.
Article 13, you're doing a great job. Article 12 just addresses the layout of Central Street, so we can have, as I mentioned earlier, a portion of the portion of Central Street that they'll be doing work on will be owned by the town of Winchendon. Article 13 is seeking up to $150,000 out of free cash to acquire any temporary or permanent easements that may need to be acquired during the construction of Central Street.
Okay. That helps. So the layout, the term layout is in the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. And they presented the article, and it can be approved by a majority vote at the town meeting. Am I right so far?
Yep.
Okay. And then Article 13 calls for the use of money for a capital purpose, so it will require a 2/3 vote, and is certainly, although it's the same project, two different actions for two different purposes. All right.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm clear on it.
Okay.
Anybody else in the Finance Committee? Anybody in the public? There's somebody
Yes.
with a hand raised.
I have my hand up. My name is David Watkins, and
Hi,
I
Mr.
have
Watkins.
a question about the layout of Central Street. What was the time frame again when that was discovered that it was never accepted?
It was discovered, and Tracy can correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say it was discovered in the spring, because had we had town meeting been held in May like it normally is, we would have not had the time necessary to put this article on the May annual town meeting warrant. Is that correct, Tracy?
That's correct.
So having said that, you said it involves CVS, Rite Aid, I guess. Is there any single family homes or anything right in that area that it affects? This,
I
Not Central
don't,
Street.
no. Okay,
No.
so were these?
there may be one home.
Okay. Was anybody sent any type of letter from Mr. Hickey and the town of Winchendon stating that that road was unaccepted and they will no longer plow that road or maintain that road? Was anybody sent that letter?
This is
Because
a-
I got that letter sent to me. Was anybody else?
It's not
sent that
unacceptable.
letter? It's not unacceptable.
This is a different, it's not accepted. There was
Okay.
not an official layout recorded.
So there was never a layout discovered.
So
It was never recorded.
It's a layout issue. It's not that it's not,
So you
there was
can
never a layout recorded. We couldn't find record.
record of a layout. Okay, so you're gonna do a layout because you can't
There was
find a
never a
record.
layout recorded. And we,
Gotcha.
You're-
But you're right in the process.
they
of
actually,
doing it.
this,
Oh, I've
there
got-
was a layout done in 2016 with a survey.
Okay. Okay, so there was a survey and a layout done in 2016.
Correct. And when
So-
the contract documents were put together for this project to go out to bid, the state needed proof that that layout, the expense of the project, was within the layout of the way that was accepted by the town. When we went to the registry, we could not find record of that layout. It
Okay,
had to
so
be
the-
a visual meets and bounds. When we
Right.
went, had to be a visual.
but we all know that Central Street has been in existence for a long time. We all know that it's been plowed, it's been maintained for many, many years. We'll say more than 20 years. So that part of Central Street would be basically a road by prescription at that point, because the town has treated it with municipal equipment for more than 20 years. So I still don't quite see the need to expend money on a layout of a road that's been in existence for many, many, many years.
If I could, Mr. Chair, the layout has been done, as Tracy mentioned, as part of the project funded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Where we found the issue is the layout of Central Street was not recorded properly in the registry. And all we're trying to do here, sir, is to have the layout of Central Street recorded in the registry, so it will allow the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to spend their funds to upgrade Central Street.
Okay.
Respectfully, this situation is very different than Mellon Road.
I'm sure it has differences, but I would have to say it's not very different.
Okay, well, we can have a difference of opinion then, sir.
There are other people who have a question. Mark Doer. Go ahead.
I think he's.
Mark, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. Mark Dorwart, 245 Mellon Road. Thank you. You keep mentioning the Registry of Deeds as if it matters to the town. On video in other minutes in 2019, the town has stated that the registry doesn't matter. And our deeds show one thing and the town says it doesn't matter what our deeds show on our street. So why does it matter on Central Street, but it doesn't matter on other streets what the deeds show? And why did Mr. Barbaro state that the registry doesn't matter in 2019 at a BOS meeting?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Hickey?
I don't know what Mr. Dorwart's referring to. I don't know if he's taking it out of context, and frankly, I don't know if this has anything to do with the Finance Committee discussion this evening.
Thank you.
Well, if the Registry of Deeds is pertinent here, wouldn't it be pertinent everywhere else? And if it's not pertinent there, why would it be pertinent here?
I'd have to get an understanding about what you're referring to, Mr. Dorwart. I'm not going to answer that without knowing what you're suggesting.
You were at the meeting, sir.
I was. That was a year or so ago, sir. And I'm sorry, I don't know what I had for breakfast this morning. So.
Well, it affects people's lives. It affects people's
It
house
does.
values. I think we should pay attention to it.
I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate your opinion.
All right. If any other questions or comments about Article 12, that's the article we're on right now. Mr. Kent.
Yeah, Mr. Hickey, maybe Mr. Glenn or Mrs. Murphy would be able to answer this. You probably are too. What are the total value of improvements we're seeing for our municipality accepting this? I know that we had to give up a certain amount of parking spots going northerly on Central Street in order to put in a bike lane. Do we know finally how many parking spots we're taking on that right side? And what is the value of the improvements the town feels we're getting in replacement for giving up those parking spots in terms of the project value?
I'm going to ask, if I could, Mr. Chair, Tracy, to answer that question, please.
I'm sorry, I don't have the number of parking spaces in front of me. It is significant. I'm not going to say that's not. Right now, the value of the project is about $5.3 million.
Tracy, I think it might have been around 80 spots before, give or take, but I could be incorrect going back a couple of years.
I think
That's how many we're going to lose. That sounds
high.
Go ahead.
I think
that sounds high to me.
I thought it was less than half of that, sir.
I was
going to say 35, but I didn't want to say that because I don't have it in front of me.
I was just trying to remember that independent study that was discussed. That's all. I couldn't remember what the number was.
And just to, if I could, Mr. Chair, just to put it in context, the reason the parking spaces are being lost primarily is because the layout of Central Street is obviously a very old one, and what was allowed or where parking spots were allowed in the past, they are no longer allowed now, such as parking spots that are close to intersections and things of that nature. So one of the things that's going to be improved on Central Street is why we'll have fewer parking spaces available to the town who visit the downtown area. There'll be safer parking spots to come in and out of, because you won't be quite as close to intersections, providing better sight distances and things of that nature for people who need to park in the parking spots when they visit the downtown area.
So basically, those parking spots would just simply be no longer grandfathered under newer state requirements.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? We'll move along to Article 13. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, and/or eminent domain the fee to and/or permanent and/or temporary easements for public way purposes, including without limitation for the construction, alteration, installation, maintenance, improvement, repair, replacement, and/or relocation of rights-of-way, sidewalks, walkways, driveways, drainage, utilities, driveways, guardrails, slopes, grading, rounding, construction, landscaping, and other appurtenances and/or facilities to enable the town to undertake the Central Street Route 202 reconstruction project, and for any and all purposes and uses incidental related thereto, in, on, and under certain parcels of land located on or near Central Street, and approximately shown in the plans entitled Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division Plan and Profile of Improvements and Related Work on Central Street Route 202 from Front Street to Maple Street. Dated October 4th, 2019, prepared by Ty and Bond, consultant engineers, on file with the town clerk. The said plans may be amended and are incorporated into the easement plan, and the land within 200 feet of said parcels. And B, transfer the care, custody, and control of a portion or portions of the town-owned property or properties shown in the aforesaid plans from the board or officer having custody of the same for the purposes of which such properties are currently held to the Board of Selectmen for the purposes set forth herein. And further, to dedicate said portions of the town-owned properties to the purposes set forth in herein, and if applicable, authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit petitions to the general court to allow the foregoing Article 97 of Massachusetts Constitution or otherwise, C, raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds and/or borrow a sum of money not to exceed $150,000 to fund the foregoing and any and all costs incidental related thereto, including without limitation the cost of any land easement, acquisitions, appraisals, and surveys. And further, D, authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into all agreements and take any and all action as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the foregoing purposes.
So, Mr. Chair, we discussed this a little bit ago with Article 12. This article will allow the town to acquire permanent temporary easements for the Central Street project. Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe there are any permanent easements that are anticipated to be needed with this project. So there may be some temporary construction easements that will work with property owners on to allow access on the property to make the improvements to Central Street. But I don't believe there are any permanent easements at all. Is that true, Al or Tracy?
That's correct. That's correct. And there's a total of 46 easements, but one are for sidewalk and driveway apron construction.
Any questions about Article 13 from the Finance Committee? Hearing none, any questions or comments from anybody in the public? Do see
Yes,
your
I
hand.
I have a question. My name is David Watkins.
Yes, Mr. Watkins.
I just want to say, as far as the project on Central Street, I think it's definitely moving forward for the town. I think it's a good thing. And the idea that we're getting so much state funding is also a good thing. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, moving along to Article 14. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $3,762,000 for the purpose of making repairs to the Old Murdoch Senior Center, including the payment of all costs incidental related thereto, and is funding therefore that the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, be authorized to borrow said sums and issue bonds and notes, therefore pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, or any other enabling authority, and further, that any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds and notes approved by this vote, lest any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of the bonds and notes may be applied to the payment of the costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount, provided, however, that any borrowing authorized hereunder shall be contingent on the passage of a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion vote. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The senior center, the old Murdoch High School, feels like almost a year ago. I think it was a little sooner than that. We noticed that some of the brickwork around the clock tower and other parts of the building were loosened, and in some cases, some bricks had actually fallen from the building. So working with staff, we brought in Ty and Bond, who provided a structural assessment on the Murdoch Senior Center, and they identified a number of repairs that needed to be made, and they placed them in three categories. So phase one, which were critical repairs that must be completed to eliminate potentially unsafe conditions. Those were a hazardous material survey, just to determine what hazardous materials are in there, so they know how to best remove them. Repair some masonry at the clock tower. Repair chimney masonry above the roof level. The clock tower window replacement needs to be done, and selective roof repairs related to the execution of the clock tower and chimney work. That roof, as I'm sure you probably know, is slate and is expensive. The town has received state funds in the past for historical purposes, which limits our ability to on how these repairs are made, such as using different materials on the roof rather than slate. The funding request on phase one was, I apologize, I've got it in front of me, I just need to find the right page, was, I believe, $1.13 million. There are also some recommended additional repairs that are proposed in this warrant article as well, called phase two. Again, roof and flashing repairs to the remainder of the roof, building masonry repairs, interior finish repairs, repair all the damage from water leaks due to masonry and roof deterioration. Those repairs are closer to $1.7 million. There is OPM costs and contingency costs built into this. So making this list of repairs $3.762 million. The board discussed this at their meeting, agreed to allow a warrant article to be placed on the warrant this year for voters' consideration as to whether or not they want to make this repair now.
All right. Anybody on the Finance Committee have a question about
Mr. Chair.
Article 14? Yes, Mr. Kent.
Mr. Hickey, this is the most loved building in our community. There's no question about it if you were to take a vote on that. It's pretty common sense.
Mhm.
The work needs to be done. We know that. My question is, have we a fixed number on what if this were to pass 2.5, do we have a fixed number on what the average homeowner would see on an increase in their taxes annually to facilitate this? And my second part of the question, Mr. Hickey, is if it does pass and it is facilitated, is this $3 million enough, or are we coming back for more in the future? Are there going to be other costs incurred down the road?
So to answer your first question, I have those costs. I've got to look it up on my computer, so you might need to give me a minute on those.
Yeah, no problem.
Questions. There is a phase 3 as well, which has been titled long-term repairs, window restoration and maintenance for the entire building, joint sealant replacement, lightning protection, which it does not have now. So that cost is an additional $1.5 million. Again, because they are more longer term repairs that are proposed, the thought was to bundle the immediate and short-term repairs together, and then deal with the longer-term repairs as when we put this work into our capital improvement plan and try to address those future repairs, those long-term repairs down the road a bit.
So are we looking maybe somewhere around $50 a year on the average tax levy, possibly?
You can give me a couple of minutes. I can tell you.
I can answer that.
You can, you've got it in front of you?
Yes,
Thank
it's $68 on a $206,000 home.
Okay.
If I could, a $206,000 home is the average residential property value.
Okay.
That's where that $206,000 comes from.
Most $68.
Correct.
So what percentage of a vote would this need to pass at a annual town meeting or special town meeting?
It's a, I believe, a simple majority vote.
2/3.
Yeah, it's
2/3?
Yeah.
Capital
That's
article.
a capital item, of course, 2/3. It's a capital item.
Thank you, everybody.
So opening this up to the public. I see a couple of hands out there.
I can speak first. Mine's quick. My name is David Watkins. I was wondering, Mr. Hickey, how I would go about getting a copy of the proposed work on the senior center. I would love to review it myself. Is there a chance of getting a copy of everything that you just spoke of?
Absolutely. I believe it's on our website now.
It's on the website.
Yes, sir.
In detail, in detail.
The entire report as it was delivered to the town of Winchendon is on the website. If you have a problem finding it or have any questions, please reach out and we'll make sure we get you what you need. But that should be completely on the town website. Yes.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
And somebody else?
Mark Dorwart. I had a question. So does this 3.8 roughly million, does it cover the full fix of the roof, or are you just doing a temporary repair? Because I have a follow-up question to that.
The roof repairs should be completed with phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3, which is the longer term repairs, are window restoration and
Okay.
caulk, things of that nature.
So did you go with the slate roof, or are you doing a new roof material?
We as I mentioned, I think we have to do a slate roof because the town accepted state historical funds for repairs to this building in the past, and so the repairs have to be made with similar materials. In this case, I did reach out to the historical group asking if there's any way you could apply for a waiver. They frankly were not very enthusiastic about being able to receive a waiver on something like slate shingles.
I think it's great that they're holding us to that standard. If I'm going to pay another $68 on my property or more, I'd rather see it stay with the character. If we're going to maintain the character, let's keep it. And I think the slate roof is a large part of that. You know, obviously I think roads should come first, but if we're going to do this, we should do it right. So I salute the slate roof.
Mr. Hickey, one of Mr. Dorr's comment made me think about historical buildings and the opportunity to get funding either at the state level or the federal level to help out with this project. Is there anything on the horizon out there that would create some possibilities?
There has been some state funding that we've looked into and will continue to do that. The grant amounts that are available for any community are not very significant, but any amount of money that we're able to obtain through grants or other funding sources, we will certainly take advantage of to reduce the overall costs of the project to the residents of the community.
Thank you.
One question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I promise to be the last one on this topic, give you my word. Mr. Hickey, Keith, devil's advocate here. I gotta ask the unpopular question, which I know you've already given probably due diligence to. If this was to hypothetically not pass, sir, do we have a plan B at this moment or a plan C if we had to go back with other options? I'm just looking at how unpopular overrides usually are for school districts. I'm just wondering if there's a plan B for, say, this may not come to fruition. That's all I'm curious about, sir.
Really, if I could, there really isn't a plan B, frankly.
Okay. I appreciate your honesty.
And and it's just because there are no real alternative fixes. We've got to make the investment in this building. It's significant. It's historical. And to your point earlier, we want to do this right. So I don't know that there's another way to make these repairs and do it within the requirements of the Historic Society and things of that nature. I was corrected. We did receive a grant of $50,000 so far towards the repairs of this building. And that's from the state, I believe. And I'm not sure how much is out there at this point. We may apply for some funds to Robinson Broadhurst. They've been very generous in the past with some building, but they wanted to see a more formalized plan moving forward before they were willing to consider it in their grant cycles.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have to ask the question, sir. It's just we know what happens when we don't plan for worst case scenarios during difficult times. That's why I wanted to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, name and address, please.
Inanna Arthen, 325 Lakeview Drive. I just want to bring people's attention to the chat window because I put the direct link to the engineering study from this February, all 78 pages of it. And it does have a breakdown of the costs, and it has a copy of the application from the 1980s for putting the building onto the Registry of Historic Buildings. And it has the, many photographs and the tie-in bond and Northern Structures reports on their assessment of the building. So if you look in the chat window, that link is right there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, move on to Article 15. See if the town will vote pursuant to Section 7.15 of the general bylaws to transfer from free cash sum of $86,165 to make permanent road improvements on the unaccepted portion of Mellon Road. These repairs will upgrade this portion of Mellon Road to the town's dirt road standard in preparation for acceptance of a town road at a future town meeting or act in relation thereto. I'll turn this over to Mr. Hickey.
Thank you. So if members of the Finance Committee and members of the public who are tuning in have been paying attention at all to what's going on in town, there's been a long conversation about the ownership of Mellon Road and how making repairs to the existing poor condition of Mellon Road, whose responsibility that is, and how if and how the town can spend money to make some of those improvements. The residents of Mellon Road and the Board of Selectmen have met at Board of Selectmen meetings a number of times over the last several months. And the Board of Selectmen at one of their more recent meetings proposed two different options to make repairs to Mellon Road. The first is the article that's in front of you right now, Article 15. What this would do is make improvements to Mellon Road. Mellon Road at one point was a paved road. Just to give everybody a little bit of history, the developer put the first coat of asphalt on the paved road a number of years ago when the development was being constructed. The town agreed to allow the developer at the time to place $7,500 in an escrow account for every lot that was sold along the section of roadway that he was constructing. The developer and/or the town, the developer never deposited money into an escrow account that was being held by an attorney. I'm not sure why, but the town never checked on the funds for that escrow account. That escrow account was supposed to be there for putting the second coat of asphalt down when the road, the properties had all been sold and the funds were available to pave that section of road. So to make a long story short, unfortunately, the second coat of asphalt was not put down on the road. The road has failed. And what came to my attention almost 2 years ago now, I believe, was the fact that there were a number of roads that the town was maintaining, not just in the wintertime, but also filling potholes and things of that nature, that unfortunately we didn't have the authority to expend funds for. So I did send letters to residents on the section of Mellon Road that was unaccepted, as well as the residents on the section of Converse Drive that wasn't accepted, letting them know that the road wasn't accepted, that my intention was to bring a warrant article forward to the next meeting to get authority to expend town funds to sand and salt and plow unaccepted roads in town. That was approved, and the town has been providing winter maintenance on unaccepted roads since then. We have not, however, as a town, been maintaining or making repairs to unaccepted roads, such as Mellon Road, in the summertime when potholes and things of that nature. There's a disagreement, I think, amongst residents on Mellon Road and the town, legal counsel that are here, unfortunately, representing both parties, on who owns the road, what the status of that road is, and what authority the town has to expend funds. So the Board of Selectmen have proposed two articles on this year's warrant. The first one is the Article 15, and that's to spend $86,000 to turn what used to be a paved road that is now lacks quite a bit of pavement into a dirt road, and make improvements to that dirt road that would allow it to meet town dirt road standards, so that at a future town meeting date, ideally in the spring of 2021, we'd have a warrant article on the town meeting ballot to accept this section of Mellon Road as a town road. Once that was completed, if that was completed, the town would then take ownership of and maintenance and maintain that section of Mellon Road as a dirt road. The reason the board thought that made sense was, frankly, I think there's been some issues here that have gone on for 20 and 30 years that I would suggest to you that nobody on Mellon Road had any responsibility for. It's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. We're trying, I think the Board of Selectmen is trying to provide a solution that allows for the road to be improved. So it's more drivable now than it is. It would be accepted by the town of Winchendon and maintained by the town of Winchendon. It would also be eligible for Chapter 90 money in the future, which I would suggest to you would not be a significant sum of money, but would be eligible for the town to receive some amount of money from the state for Chapter 90 to maintain our town roads. It's not a perfect fix, no question about it. I think everybody, including the Board of Selectmen, would like to pave the road and be done with it. But that cost is not something the board is willing at this particular time to absorb. So this is the first of two proposals for Mellon Road repairs that are being considered. I guess the last thing I'll say is the board met one night last week. The residents of Mellon Road who attended the meeting, I think unanimously, was not in support of making the improvements to Mellon Road to allow it to be I guess and I'm sorry if this is the wrong term, but improved to a dirt town-owned road.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the Finance Committee? Dr. Watt?
I guess I'm a little confused, Mr. Hickey. I understand that the residents would like it to be accepted as a town road. And if this brings it up to par to be accepted as a town road, then where's the disconnect?
Well, I don't want to speak for the residents of Mellon Road, and I see that their hands up, so I'm sure they'd be happy to be recognized by the board. My impression of what the disconnect was is they purchased a property. Some of them, the original property owners from the subdivision, and they're at the time of acquisition of the property.
It's not a subdivision.
I'm sorry, sir.
Don't speak.
It's not.
Excuse me. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions and make comments when Mr. Hickey's finished and the board is finished asking questions. So you just need to wait your turn. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr, for correcting me, though. So this is not a subdivision. This was an A&R through the planning board. And when these lots were sold, the individuals who bought those lots had basically a brand new paved road in front of their homes. And my understanding from the board meeting last week was at least the people who spoke at that meeting would like to see that road pavement be restored, which from at least from my impression was that this seemed to be the largest disconnect with the individuals who participated in the meeting.
Okay. Other questions from the Finance Committee? All right, I'll open it up to the public.
Could I speak first, sir? My name is David Watkins. I just want to clarify something.
Certainly, Mr. Watkins.
Okay. So the statement that Mr. Hickey had said, I'm very familiar with the situation on Mellon Road. I'm at 235 Mellon Road. And I just want to clarify how this, we'll just say went down. So the A&R, the lots were A&R'd in 91. That's 1991. After the road was upgraded in 89. So once it was upgraded and the town was satisfied with the upgrade, by the way, the town participated in that upgrade with municipal equipment. That is in writing, in minutes. So having said that, so the alleged area of the discontinuance is from Jay Shaw all the way up to the Mellon House. So in that area lies the first, it was a dirt road at first, then it became paved, one coat of pavement. And when I came to purchase my land, which is down the other end of Mellon Road, there was a binder put on my end, one coat. But the other end, part of the deal was to resurface, put a second coat on all of that. But here's the strangest part. The first houses that were built there in 91 were built on the alleged 1914 discontinued part. All of them. All of them. So I'm a little confused as to why, if this was such a problem, why was it paved and repaved? And the first houses built here were built on the alleged discontinued portion. Then, of course, as time went on, houses began to be built on the other end of Mellon Road on the Gardner side, towards the Gardner line, which left me in 1998 to purchase property down the other end, which was just binder coat, with guarantees that there was money put aside to put the finish coat on once all the building was done. This was all looked into by my attorney at the time, and I was absolutely positively assured this was a town-maintained road. I have all the permits that are required to access a town-maintained road. I have all that stuff in writing. So as time goes on here, I really don't understand what the problem is. It's a town-maintained road. We're not getting our services. They were abruptly stopped in spring of 2018. Once again, the first houses built here were built on the alleged 1914 discontinued end. So I think what the town has to do here is step up to the plate and make this right for all the tax-paying residents down this end of Mellon Road, actually all of Mellon Road. So Mellon Road is one continuous road. It always has been since the 1700s. We have documents that state that it was a town-accepted road, and there was a layout in the 1700s. That's in Marvin's book. If you take the map that's in that book and you overlay that onto the existing Mellon Road today, it's a direct lineup. That's the exact road that was there then, and it's here now. In all the documents that I've read, my attorneys have read, the people on this road have read, and I'm assuming Mr. Hickey has read our attorney's letter and read all the other documents. It all ties together. We're correct on this. So the idea of going backwards to a dirt road to some form of town acceptance at some point in the future, maybe in the spring, it's still backwards. And I'm informed by the attorneys, we cannot go backwards, not to a dirt road. That's not what we purchased on. The town has to make good on what they originally said close to 30 years ago now. What happens now, I understand all the participants now were not on the town boards then, but I was here. I know what happened. I know the questions I asked, and I know I'm correct on this. So we have to move forward and get this corrected without a dirt road. Nobody wants a dirt road. The town's not going to be able to possibly maintain that dirt road. It's just not going to work out here. There's no way. So that's all I have to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I see some other hands. Are there other comments?
Yeah, Mark Dorwart, Mellon Road.
Yes.
Just to clarify Mr. Hickey's version of events, as uncovered by our attorneys, basically what happened was a capricious and arbitrary attack on our road, treating us differently than other roads. If you read the letter, it actually says, in my opinion, our attorney's opinion, the town's action in this entire matter have been illegal, inequitable, arbitrary, and capricious. And I'm wondering if you guys read that letter and if you're possibly aware what arbitrary and capricious means in this context.
Well, I can only speak for myself, and yes, I did read the letter. And as you point out, that is your attorney's opinion.
So in that letter, it has Mr. Hickey's opinion all over the place, which shows this. And my personal experience with Mr. Hickey is that he said, at one point he said the road was unaccepted. At another point, he said it was private. At another point, he said it was discontinued. And then at another point, he said it was discontinued for a different reason. One of them was an article that didn't even include Mellon Road. It used Mellon Road as a geographical descriptor. One of them was from 1914, which was changed when we were granted A&R endorsement. And a big part of the confusion is that I think Mr. Hickey and the way he reads his attorney letters, which I've been privy to a few of them, is he's thinking that we're a subdivision and we follow under subdivision law. But when you get A&R endorsement, it's not under subdivision law. That's why the state went to the trouble of making different laws and having two different names. It's apples and oranges. And the fact that we need to have meets and bounds it out for it to be owned by the town doesn't apply in this situation. It was a road laid out by the selectmen between 1735 and 1768. And I'm quoting that from a town letter, from a town document. When somebody asked about this road years back, that's what they were told by the town clerk. The town clerk had a great argument for it. Mr. Hickey says, one comment I've heard from people interested in Mellon Road is that their deed reflects that Mellon Road is a public way, and it is. So he keeps talking about it being a public way, but as he said in meetings that I'm sure he's forgotten from a year ago, that we're supposed to maintain the public way. And at that time, he was saying it was because it's private, which it isn't. It's been excluded from all the sales, so there's no way that we can own it. I provided those deeds all the way back to 1961 to the Board of Selectmen at that time. I now know that the chair did not disperse those documents. So basically what we have is capricious and arbitrary treatment of our road going all the way back to the point where a chair wouldn't even disseminate information regarding this issue. And we're just asking, we know that the town respects the finance committee and their vote when they go to vote. And we're just pleading with you to please see that there's been kind of a railroad job. I don't think it was nefarious or evilly intentioned. I think it was just based on a stubborn holding to an original idea that some money could be saved on our road. And I think this just needs to stop here and now. And our road is a road by prescription, and all it needs to be is recognized. And that's clear by our attorneys, and that's clear by the town's attorneys. And we need to stop with all these different labelings. I mean, why is he labeled it 4 different things that all contradict each other at different times if it wasn't a capricious and arbitrary attack on our road?
Right, Mr. Doran, I do appreciate your point of view and your opinion on this. But we need to vote on the article that's in the warrant right now, which
well, it pertains.
which let's just let me finish. Which, as I read it, offers a particular course of action. It doesn't address what you're asking for. We both would agree with that.
It destroys the value of our homes.
I understand. I'm just saying
because of capricious action against us by the town manager in the year 2019.
That's a separate issue. If I mean, the people who have the authority to address your concern is the Board of Selectmen.
Correct.
Finance Committee right now is dealing with the warrant that we have before us.
If you vote for this warrant, you're attacking our road.
So what I'm hearing you say, I mean, and this as a Finance Committee person, I'm interested in the fact that the people who would benefit, we can argue whether you would perceive it as benefit, but it applies to, I'm hearing you say, we don't want that. Is that a fair?
It does not benefit us. It damages the value to our homes. And everybody in town knows that even if does accept the road, it is usually unaccepted. It doesn't need acceptance under A&R and all the laws. Anyway, if it goes back to a dirt road, you're going to be taking 20, 30, 40 grand off the value of each of our homes. The next time a home sells, it's going to drop, and you're going to be stealing money from us. And it's going to be based on this arbitrary and capricious actions. And once the banks get involved, I mean, it's
okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that that you're not supporting Article 14. I'm sorry, Article 15.
15. No. Not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Mr. Kent?
Muted.
Keith, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, Doug. Doesn't Article 15 state that this will make permanent improvements to the road, dirt road standard in preparation for the acceptance of a town road in the future? I mean, I would hope people realize that if we vote on this, we're just trying to help them get to a better place than they already are. And whatever is decided between the lawyers in the future, that's their legal knowledge and their legal opinions on both sides, which far outweigh us. I mean, I know I'm speaking for myself. If I vote for this, it's just, I want to help the people just improve the road for now for personal and EMS points with winter coming. That's all.
The people are asking you to understand that it won't help us. It endangers us. The level of maintenance the town does on other dirt roads is not working in town currently with the climate change and the amount of water that's coming. It doesn't work. And really, I know that you're going to be honest with yourself and drive around town. The level of maintenance going on, we're allowing the town's road system to rot. And you're asking us to go back to a dirt road that requires constant maintenance with the DPW that, for whatever reason, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but for whatever reason, they're allowing the town to rot. I don't know if it's money or whatever. I don't want to get into that, but it is rotting. And you're asking us to go back in time to a road that's going to rot way faster and develop ruts and rills and erode at an alarming rate. And if you had any experience living on Mellon Road or driven down it and driven down it between storms, you'd understand how quickly it changes. A dirt road is just, I mean, if you want to attack us, make it a dirt road, please. If you want to hurt our lives, make it a dirt road. I don't know how much we can implore you more on the subject.
Mr. Chair, I'm not going to engage further. I feel for these people with all my heart, and that comes from the bottom of me for anybody who knows me.
Okay.
But I don't want anybody to feel like we're attacking them. I think that's a little extreme considering we're just trying to help people right now with what we have. And I'm just going to leave it at that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
I think it's just clear
The
that
dirt road
particular
does not help
solution
us.
is not something that many of the people are in favor of it. I see Mrs. Muldoon.
Hi, so, just to be clear, the dirt road is not going to help us. This was never discussed with the residents, by the Board of Selectmen when it went on the warrant. It was never, brought to us in a way that, what is our opinion on this? Would it help us? The reason it's not going to help us is because it's going to be a dirt road. It's going to be accepted as a dirt road. If, in case you're not familiar, I did speak last week, so I won't belabor the points, but, we have people on the road, as with all roads and all places, people are at home, they're getting medical supplies, they have kids who need to get to school with school buses, or they have special needs. There's all kinds of different situations, just as they are anywhere. Our road has a couple of large hills that water is going to slide down, it's going to become muddy. We have a Jeep club where, a section is owned by people who do off-road riding, so they come with heavy equipment on our road to transport these Jeeps that they ride in the woods, and they're right, that's fine, but it's going to put big ruts in the dirt road. We also have had on intermittently, we border the state forest, so we've had logging trucks come up, again, a dirt road, and it's going to cost a lot of money for the town to try to maintain all of this, because it's not going to be easy to maintain a dirt road that is completely rutted out. And it's going to be expensive also to turn our road into a dirt road. We have pavement right now. Granted, the road has got problems. But another issue with the problems on the road are that in the past, the town did maintain it. We're not asking the town to come and build this road up into, Central Street. We're asking for some asphalt to fill in the holes like they did in the past. This was done for 20 years where they put, asphalt in the holes, and they came and did some maintenance on it. It was pretty much as, when I bought my land, and everyone else who has stated, we bought our land with the, understanding that it was a public road. And
Right.
whether there's some sort of legal thing that you guys are saying we're not, and we're saying we are, that in itself is going to cost the town a lot of money if a bunch of residents are in a dispute, a legal dispute. That costs more money.
Right.
I understand that you think that you're helping us by voting for this, but it should be voted down. And what should happen is it needs to be voted as a road by prescription. And, we need some of the potholes filled. There's a long history. It's been put on the website, I believe, of the Winchton Courier. So, you can read that, it is not an ANR road. It is not an unaccepted road. I've been living there since 2004. Putting it to a dirt road is not going to help people. And it's a safety issue. If we cannot get our things trucked in, you're going to be hurting people's lives if we cannot get what we need because the road is washed out. We're not a small little road that nobody travels on. I think we're about 3 miles. And as I said, heavy equipment comes up and down. There's people who own construction companies. We have a landscaping company that he has dump trucks, city rides, and granted it's at the other end, but we need this voted down, and we need a better solution is what we need.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, my name is Bill Shea. May I speak? I have my hand raised, but I don't know if you can see it.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Shea.
Thank you. I'm at 275 Mellon Road. I just want to voice my opposition to this warrant item as well. And Mark had mentioned it, and a lot of us have been on this road for 20 plus years. We've invested in the town of Winchendon. We've paid our taxes. We've had our kids in education in Winchendon. We've participated in town events, town programs. We've brought income to the town of Winchendon. And the fact that we go back to a dirt road would lower the value of our property, okay, is dismaying, okay? I've been investing in my property, investing in the town, and now all of a sudden, the town is not going to recognize my investment. And so what is going to happen now when the value of our property goes down? Will that be reflected in our tax rate? I would tend to think not, because generally speaking, government doesn't give back money. Okay, so what is going to result from this is us paying even more substantial taxes for less services. And the fact that this town would do that to long-term residents, I find absolutely abhorrent that could happen, that people would put us on the side as a non-priority, okay, even though we've been involved in the town longer than a very large amount of people, probably some even longer than some of the people within this meeting today. Okay, so I personally find it abhorrent that we would do that. And I missed a little bit of the earlier conversation regarding the Senior Citizen Center. We're talking about spending a lot of money there, and we cannot maintain our roads. Okay, so our infrastructure in town is crumbling. And the route that we're going to do it is we're going to assist it with a bulldozing of a current road instead of taking care of the road. But that's why I am against this warrant article item. and I wanted to let it be known. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello?
Anybody else? Is anybody else with something new?
I have
Yeah,
something new. Oh, sorry.
hello? Can you hear me? My name's Dave Sweeney, 430 Mellon Road.
Sure, Mr. Sweeney.
Yes, thank you for letting me have an opportunity to speak. I think I want to echo what Ms. Muldoon was saying, is that we, even if you couldn't afford the road now, if we could just have some of the potholes fixed, I think that that would appease a lot of people on the street, and we could wait until better times, to address fixing the road as a whole, with state funding. We understand that, money is an issue. And that's one point I want to make. The other point I want to make is no one really said how many people are involved with this on street. How many houses are there on Mellon Road? And thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
I have
Yeah,
2
Mr.
points I'd like
Dodd,
to.
Yep, one more
I'd
comment.
just like to, I have 2 things to remind people of. First
Okay.
off, the first part of the street that's not disputed, they have a lot of services, including town plowing, that has to turn around at our end of the road. Everybody drives all the way down to our end of the road to turn around.
Yeah.
And so all the heavy equipment, all of it that comes down Mellon Road goes down all of Mellon Road. So our traffic is double what a normal road is in terms of the heavy equipment that turns around on it. The other point I'd like to make is that along this disputed portion, half of it abuts the state forest, the Winchendon State Forest, and it's the only legal vehicular access to the Winchendon State Forest. And Mr. Hickey's asked us to maintain that road, and he originally didn't send the letters out to the state forest at all. It was only when I prodded that he did. And why are we supposed to maintain a road that is a state-owned land? It's the only access, and there's logging and stuff on there. Like we have a permit of some logging, and it happens, and they invite people, they invite the public there, hunters come, and it's just really pertinent that everybody understands half of that access is to the state forest, and it's the only vehicular access.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions or comments, particularly if it's something new, then I'd like to move on.
I have a question.
Yes?
Yeah, Frank Fowler from Mellon Road. Yeah,
Sure.
I think that the article should be withdrawn or rewritten because everybody bought on a paved road. We're not going backwards. We're gonna be here forever until it gets fixed right. There's a different trash truck every day drives down here, logging trucks. This road's hammered, probably because of the logging trucks more than anything. And you think it's tough to plow now full of potholes? Wait till it's dirt and there's no frost in it. You'll destroy your trucks. 2 miles of no frost road, you'll destroy a truck on it. Needs to be paved. Shouldn't be treated any different than any other city town.
All right, thank you. I'm going to move on to Article 16. I think people have expressed their views on Article 15. See if the town will vote to pursuant to Section 7.15 of the general bylaws to transfer from free cash the sum of $4,200 to make temporary road repairs on the unaccepted portion of Mellon Road. All right, Mr. Hickey?
Thank you. So this is the second article that was proposed by the Board of Selectmen with regards to making repairs to Mellon Road. This article would allow the town to spend up to $4,200 on temporary repairs on Mellon Road by patching basically potholes. So this article would be proposed to be passed over if Articles 15 were to pass. But the thought was here again to try to deal with both options that are opportunities here, either to make the roads dirt or at least make the repairs to the roads on a temporary basis.
Anybody on the Finance Committee have a question? Dr. Ward?
Mr. Hickey, when you say temporary and to make repairs, is this going back to to doing what you used to do to the road?
Yes, it's
Filling the
basically,
potholes, doing
yes,
some patching?
yes, yes, ma'am. It's patching it's patching the potholes that are there now, basically, to assist with, transportation to and from Mellon Road.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions from the Finance Committee? Okay, any comments from the public? Questions? All right, hearing none. Move along to Article 17. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $40,046 to fund the FY20 operating deficit of the wastewater department. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you. When we closed fiscal 2020, we found that the wastewater department had a deficit retained earnings of $40,046. These funds need to be raised by the town for the tax rate to get set. So we're proposing to raise these funds out of free cash and address the deficit that was created in fiscal 20.
Questions from the Finance Committee? Oh, I've got a question. I guess I'm wondering why the deficit to the enterprise fund would be coming out of free cash.
The enterprise fund in fiscal 20 didn't have the financial capabilities of paying that deficit.
Okay.
So my understanding in talking to the town accountant, we've got two options potentially to raise the money for this deficit. The first is to use free cash. The second would be, if this article will fail, we'd have to raise it potentially through taxation.
So it's a debt that the town is responsible for.
Yes, yes,
What you're
sir.
saying.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Anybody from the public, any questions? All right, hearing none, moving along. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash sum of $167,032 for the following capital items. Cruiser replacement, $45,000. School security cameras, $30,000. Toy Town hot water heater, $26,600. Hot box for Public Works, $33,432. And the DPW septic system for $30,000. A total of $165,032.
This article is being requested to fund a reduced amount of the capital needs that were initially proposed. We had $279,000 in our initial budget proposal, but because of impacts to some of our revenues, because we wanted to make sure the school was properly funded as part of their operating budget. One of the areas that I proposed to reduce the operating budget was capital. And working with department heads, I come up with a list of $165,000 that is being requested to fund at least the short-term capital needs of the community. Once free cash is certified for fiscal 20, as has been done over the last 2 or 3 years, I may propose to the Board of Selectmen some additional capital expenses to be brought forward at a fall town meeting sometime after the September 28th date.
Any questions from the Finance Committee? Dr. Watt?
Mr. Hickey, can you tell me the cruiser replacement for $45,000, is that the full cost of it, or are they being funded with grants in other areas?
That's the full cost of police cruiser and all the appropriate equipment that goes inside them.
It's good cost. And for Mrs. Landers, the school cameras district-wide, that's to augment what you already have, correct? I can see you nodding your head, but you're on mute.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So all
Absolutely.
schools will have cameras now if we do this?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Mr. Kent?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, Mr. Hickey, since the chief is no longer in the meeting, just curious as to what was the year of the vehicle replacing and how many miles are on it. I do understand we do have regular turnover for safety purposes. I was just curious if anybody knew the year and the mileage, that's all.
I'll give you an approximate on the mileage. The year, I believe the year is either 2016 or 2017. The mileage will be, by the time this is acquired, will be over 100,000 miles.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody in the public have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move along. Article 19, see if the town will vote to transfer from deficit legislation special reserve account a sum of $323,776.09 into the Finance Committee special reserve account.
This warrant article I spoke about earlier, this would transfer the $323,000 balance from the deficit appropriation account into a reserve account under the purview of the Finance Committee. So if there were emergency unknown appropriations that were needed, it would allow the departments meeting those to come to the Finance Committee and seek approval from the Finance Committee to withdraw the necessary funds to keep the project, the operation, the repair, whatever it happens to be, moving forward without potentially needing a special town meeting just for that particular item. My thought was it provided the community some flexibility with monies that may be available to them if in fact there was some unknown COVID expenses out there that just haven't come, we aren't aware of at this point. And if so, it gives the protection of needing Finance Committee approval before any funds are expended.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the Finance Committee? I'll just say that I think that the article makes sense in that it takes money that's currently part of the town's savings, makes it available to the town if it's necessitated during the course of the year, and presuming it's not necessitated, it will go back into free cash, which again becomes part of the town's savings. Any questions from the public? All right, hearing none, we'll move along to Article 20. See if the town will vote to transfer the following balances of prior capital appropriations into the general fund to offset the existing long-term debt appropriation as required by Mass General Law. From the purchase of the boiler at Toytown Elementary School, there's $521.02. And from the acquisition of the fire truck, there's still $161.
So these two figures represent the amount of money left unexpended on prior year capital acquisitions. According to our town accountants, these funds, when you look to eliminate these funds, you have to transfer the remaining funds into the general fund to reduce capital debt. So these funds will be shown as a revenue on the town general fund, and will reduce the tax burden, so to speak, on
Somebody needs to mute. Thank you. Any questions from the Finance Committee? Any questions from anyone in the public? All right, hearing none, move along to Article 21. See if the town will vote to transfer the following balance of reserve account to sale of town property to the general fund to offset existing long-term debt as required by Mass General Law, sale of town property of $14,000. Mr. Hickey?
Also the same situation.
You're breaking up.
I am?
Yeah.
You sure that's not the
Now you're
person
good.
who had
Good
dishes?
now.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, so the $14,000 was received by the town a number of years ago for the sale of a town piece of property. It was placed into a reserve account that is not needed. So what we're asking is to close out this reserve account in the amount of $14,000, transfer into the general fund operating budget to reduce the long-term debt appropriation as required by Mass General Law.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody on the Finance Committee? Okay, seeing none. Any questions from anybody in the public? All right, hearing none, move along to Article 22, to see if the town will vote to accept as townways the roadways known as Bayberry Circle and Pinewood Drive as heretofore laid out by the Board of Selectmen and shown on the plan entitled Miller's Run Subdivision Plan of Land in Winchendon, Massachusetts, surveyed for Robert Van Dyke, dated February 27th, 2004, prepared by Sage Engineering and on file with the town clerk, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire on behalf of the town by gift purchase or eminent domain an easement to use Bayberry Circle and Pinewood Drive for all purposes for which public ways are used in the town of Winchendon, and drainage, utility, access, and/or other easements related thereto. Mr. Hickey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This article is a standard article for the request to accept a road built in a subdivision by a developer. This road acceptance proposal has been in front of the planning board, who supports acceptance in front of the, or reviewed by the Director of Public Works, who supports this acceptance, and by the Board of Selectmen, who also support the acceptance.
Any questions from anybody on the Finance Committee? Okay. Questions from anybody in the public?
Mr.
I can hear
Chair,
somebody. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dr. Ward.
Mr. Hickey, if it's an easy explanation, can you tell me what the difference is between accepting this as a public way and as accepting it as a road?
I'm sorry, accepting as a public way or accepting as what?
As a town road.
Well, a public way and town road are the same.
Unanimous? Okay, thank you.
There should be, that's just the boilerplate legalese for bringing forward an article in this situation.
Thank
you. Now I'll open it up to the public. Any questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, we'll move along to Article 23. See if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept property from the Winchendon Redevelopment Authority on such terms and consideration as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate. The following parcels are described below. And they're located on map 5C405, a certain parcel of land situated in Winchendon at the corner of Glen Allen and Spring Streets, known as Grout Park, and shown on the assessors map 5C4 parcel 5. The parcel consisting of approximately 7/10 of an acre. Parcel is further described in the deed recorded in book 52460, page 2210, the Registry of Deeds.
This parcel is, as I mentioned, is known as Grout Park. The Redevelopment Authority has took ownership of that a number of years ago. There is no reason or no need for the Redevelopment Authority to continue to own that property. The town has worked with Mrs. Grout and her family to make improvements to that piece of property that the town is now ready to take responsibility for.
Right, any questions from the Finance Committee? All right, hearing none, any questions or comments from the public? All right. Move along to Article 24. See if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey the town-owned property located at 4 Summer Drive as shown on Assessors Map 5B3 Parcel 0-160 for such considerations, including acquisition of other land in addition to or in lieu of cash payment, and upon such other terms and conditions as the board deems appropriate, and to authorize the board to acquire any such land by purchase, gift, or eminent domain, or in exchange for the town-owned property, and for such purposes as the board deems in the best interest of the town, to take such additional action as may be needed to effectuate the purposes of this vote, including but not limited to execution of instruments and documents to convey and or accept real property, and further, to raise and appropriate, transfer or borrow a sum of money for such purposes. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you. I may be able to speak to both Article 24 and Article 25 because they're both
Sure.
reason they're abutting pieces of property on Summer Drive. These are two pieces of property the town acquired a number of years ago from tax through the tax title process. Summer Drive is these particular pieces of property are behind the bowling alley and behind the Clark, just to give you a sense of where Summer Drive is. The property in Article 24 and 4 Summer Drive, there is a dilapidated factory type building on that particular piece of property that continues to fall into disrepair. The parcel in Article 25 is a vacant piece of property that abuts. The parcel in Article 24, what we're seeking authority for is to we're seeking the authority to sell the property with stipulations. Right now, because the property was acquired through tax title, you can put no requirements or restrictions on how the property is resold. By moving the property under the purview of the Board of Selectmen, we can put stipulations on the property as to what the town would like to see the property be used for. And the example I have is, that property is just off of Central Street. It's in a nice spot, abutting the pond. We'd like to see that property be revitalized and redeveloped into a piece of property that can be beneficial to the town of Winchendon, can be generating tax dollars and ideally generating jobs. Rather than somebody buying an old abandoned warehouse to store vehicles in, for example, that would not bring new jobs and in all likelihood not bring an increased value, tax value to that particular piece of property. So the main reason for this article, as I mentioned, is just to give the Board of Selectmen the authority to set stipulations on how to sell this particular piece of property, so we can try to get the highest and best use from that property rather than just selling it to the high bidder who may not have any interest in making any improvements to the property itself.
Thank you. Any questions from the Finance Committee? All right, hearing none. Any questions or comments from anybody in the public? All right, move along. So that covered Article 24 and 25. Brings us up to Article 26. To see if the town will accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Clause 28H. Inserted by Chapter 21.8 of the Acts of 2018, known as the Act Relative to Veterans Benefits, Rights, Appreciation, Validation, and Enforcement, the BRAVE Act, signed into law on August 28th, 2018, which provides for property tax exemption for real estate to the full amount of the taxable value of the real property of the surviving parents or guardians of soldiers, sailors, members of the National Guard, veterans who, one, during active duty suffered an injury or illness documented by the United States Department of Veteran Affairs or a branch of the armed services that was approximate cause of their death, or two, are missing in action with presumptive finding of death as a result of active duty service as members of the armed forces of the United States, provided, however, that the real estate shall be occupied by the surviving parents or guardians as the surviving parents and guardians domicile, and provided further that the surviving parents or guardians shall have been domiciled in the Commonwealth for the 5 consecutive years immediately before the date of filing for the exemption pursuant to this clause, or the soldier or sailor member of the National Guard veteran was domiciled in the Commonwealth for not less than 6 months before entering the service. Surviving parents or guardians eligible for the exemption pursuant to this clause shall be eligible regardless of when the soldier, sailor, member of the National Guard or veteran died or became missing in action with a presumptive finding of death, provided, however, that the exemption shall only apply to tax years beginning on or after January 1st, 2019. Such exemption shall be available until such time as the surviving parent or guardians are deceased. No real estate shall be so exempt which has been conveyed to the surviving parents or guardians to evade taxation or take any other action related thereto. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you. This tax exemption, as you mentioned, was brought forward and approved by the Commonwealth in 2018, signed into law August 28th, about 2 years ago. What we're asking the voters of this community to approve is to extend this Gold Star exemption as described in the article to the parents or guardians of a soldier who is either missing in action or was killed in wartime. The language was taken right from the state law that would allow us to propose this article. So it's standard language. And it's something that the Board of Selectmen thought it was appropriate to bring forward for the voters to consider approving for any resident who may be eligible at this point.
Any questions from the Finance Committee? Dr. Ward.
Mr. Hickey, has there been any suggestion or conversation either adding spouse into this or creating another article at another time to give the spouse the same benefit?
The spouse already has a benefit with existing.
A tax exempt benefit on their domicile?
Yes.
Thank you.
This expands that to parents and legal guardians.
Okay.
Right. Any questions from anybody in the public? All right, hearing none, we'll go to Article 27. The town of Winchton, this is a citizen petition. Town of Winchton to officially recognize the section of Mellon Road by prescription, beginning at number 404, the home of Chris and Donna Nallette, and extending northerly to 215, the home of John and Celeste Waymeyer, for the purpose of maintenance and repair. Mr. Hickey.
I would ask that the citizen petitioners speak to this, if I could.
Okay. That's true. It was brought by the citizens. I'm sure there's somebody in the public that wants to speak to this article.
I do. My name is David Watkins. I'm the one that wrote the article.
Okay.
So what this basically says is that Mellon Road has been used for at minimum of 20 years. Heavy public use is what the petition states. So if you look up the law of a road by prescription, That means that it's a publicly used road. And it has to be used by other people than the people that live on that road. So that's where the DCR property comes in. They have a bear study on that. There's vehicles that come and go that are state owned. There's people that drive up and down Mellon Road that are encouraged to go there by the DCR. It's a sanctuary. So there's also logging companies, which we've spoken of, that go up and down Mellon Road. This is all public use. So our road falls into all the categories that would be needed for a road by prescription and some. So that's why I put the article warrant out there to see if we can get the townsfolk to understand what's going on Mellon Road, that it's not even close to private. It's not even close to unaccepted. It needs to be voted on as a road by prescription. And in doing so, basically the town is just going to patch the road like it's been for all these years. That's all we're asking for as residents at this time. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from anybody on the Finance Committee? All right. Mr. Kent?
Just clarification on how this relates or affects Article, was it 15? Forgive me if I'm wrong, that we viewed earlier. I'm just a little confused. I apologize for my confusion.
Just speak a little bit, maybe you want to speak to that, Mr. Watkins?
Yes, I would, yes. So the Article 15 is ripping up the road, grinding it and turning it to dirt. And in some magical time, accepting it as a town-maintained road, which maintained as dirt. But from what I understand, once a dirt road gets put into place, it's never going to become a paved road again. And that's what we bought, was a paved road. Once again, we were assured that the road was going to be maintained by the town completely. And they're not. As a matter of fact, it was maintained to a degree for well over 20 years. I've been here for 21 years. So the idea of 15 is ripping the road up, turning it to dirt, and then maybe at some point in time accepting it. But once again, it's going to have to be maintained as dirt. And I don't see the possibility of maintaining Mellon Road as dirt with all the heavy traffic, public traffic that it gets at this time. So having the wording prescription, it would remain like it always has. It would be the town road that it always has been, and what we were told, it will be town maintained. It'll be repaired. And it'll forever be repaired if it's a road by prescription. And then it'll be enjoyed by the public. But if it gets ripped up, there's no way it's going to be properly maintained. It's an impossible feat. We've all stressed that, how it's going to it's going to come apart in no time. And once again, there's still that part that Mellon Road needs to be accepted for some reason, and it doesn't. Mellon Road does not need to be accepted. It needs to be recognized as a road by prescription. It needs to be recognized as a town road way back to the 1700s. I can go on and on and on and on about this, because all the documentation that I have uncovered, attorneys have uncovered, I've reviewed, researched, it all states this. It's, for some reason, it's just not, the point is not getting across. And there's 19 residents, that's 60 people out here, 60 people that are suffering from this decision that was made in spring of 2018. And there's been an accident on this road where a gal rolled her truck up onto its side and almost completely over. Luckily, she was not seriously injured. There was a bus stuck out here last winter. When the DPW was called, they said they couldn't help us. This is a school bus full of children that was stuck in an awful ice storm. I cannot possibly see how this road is going to be maintained safely for the residents and for the public that uses it on a regular basis. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Just question for Mr. Hickey, and it'll be my last question on this, I promise. Mr. Hickey is a town manager. Where I'm honest to God, just confused is, and please forgive me for this. If Article 15, say, passed before it got to this article, and then this article passed, I'm confused, sir, as to how both articles would potentially affect each other. And forgive me for my ignorance on this. It's kind of confusing.
I can try to answer for you, Mr. Kent. In review of the article by the town's legal counsel, it's their opinion that Article 27 is something similar to a non-binding referendum. So if it were to pass, it would provide the Board of Selectmen some direction, but there is nothing that would require the board to abide by the language proposed in Article 27.
Thank you. I'm just anticipating other people in the audience having the same question because we're not all lawyers. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay. Mr. Dart?
I just want to point out that the select board pretty much, as far as I remember last week, decided that they're going to do a passover on Article 15. I know at least one or two of them are on that mindset, and Mr. Hickey said that it was possible. And Article 27 is the cheapest route for the town and the safest route for the citizens. Regardless of what the town's council has said or how Mr. Hickey interprets what they've said, the town can just recognize that it's a road by prescription. That's why prescription is in the laws. I've seen it in the town council. I've seen him saying that the town can, it's a matter of town policy that they can treat the road as a public way if they want. And so the way that happens is the Board of Selectmen can just say that they officially recognize that section. And we've given you a geographical description here, so there's never any problems like there have been in the past. And that's the simplest solution, the cheapest solution, the safest solution. It's a no-brainer. And so I'm asking you guys tonight to just decide to pass over Article 15, and that way that gets rid of the confusion. The people look to the Finance Committee when they vote. And if you guys vote to pass it over, I think it's going to make that statement and clear up that confusion that you're talking about.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Ms. Muldoon. Ms. Muldoon?
Hi, yes, I agree. This article is the most amicable way to settle this dispute, which has gone on for years now. The residents of Mellon Road do not want to have a dispute with the town. This was brought forward to try to mend the bridge of disagreement that we've had at many meetings about our road, and certainly legally it is the best solution. It is a road by prescription, and voting for it to be an ANR to patch it, or that's just going to create legal problems later, and as Mark said, it's going to be more expensive. We don't want there to, put the town of Winchendon in any kind of financial, we have enough issues without that. That's not our goal. Our goal is not to have a dispute with the town. We're trying to kind of meet everybody halfway here and come up with something that can work for both sides. And this particular petition may not be, it may be a non-binding, but we do live in a democracy, and I would hope that, the town of Winchendon would look that if this passed, that this is what they would recommend, that they would recommend to make it be a binding referendum, because
I mean, that's my understanding of it too, is that the nature of the article would act as a referendum, that the town meeting doesn't have the authority to dictate that. I think Mr. Dorrit pointed out it's the Board of Selectmen that declare a road public road by progression. So it's a question, from my perspective, it's a question of the process, the right way to get where you want to go. And I think we just need to be clear that Article 27 is more of a referendum question than an actual something that can dictate a direction. Mr. Dowd?
I'd just like to point out, along what you're saying, that so that the public can understand, the original articles that were voted on at town meeting that the town has relied upon to say that Millen Road is private or doesn't need to be fixed or anything like that. The original reason we're in this mess is because of non-binding articles that were voted on. So you're absolutely correct. And it also defeats the original purpose we're in this mess. Like, because we didn't need acceptance before until those articles were discovered magically a couple of years ago. And now we're in this mess. And you're right, they're non-binding, and our lawyers have assured us that those original articles were non-binding then as well.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Okay, I just want to
appreciate
be clear about that. Make sure everybody understood that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I'm going to suggest that the Finance Committee maybe take a 5-minute recess.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do we have to make a motion to close the public hearing first?
Yes, I think we do.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. So I hear a motion to close the public hearing. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I hear a second. All right, Dr. Ward?
That's 9:16 p.m.
All right, we need to vote on your motion
Aye.
to adjourn the public hearing.
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Courts?
Aye.
Mr. Delay?
Aye.
And Mr. Kent?
Aye, and thank everybody for their input tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And chair
Mr.
votes aye.
Chair?
So we're just going to take 5 minutes, so people need to make a run to the facilities can do so. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes, and we will deliberate on the articles and make our recommendations. Enough? Good. All right, I'm going to reconvene the meeting. I'm not going to read the articles again. I will just identify the article, the gist of it, open it up to the Finance Committee. I look to entertain a motion on each of the articles and a second, and then we can have some discussion. We would be voting to recommend an article or not recommend an article. I honestly don't know if we have, I think it's the Board of Selectmen that have the authority to pass over articles. So I'd like to start with the special town meeting. Article 1 doesn't require a recommendation, so we'll go right to Article 2, which is the financial article to pay off some bills from last year totaling $6,141.75. So I entertain a motion. Dr.
Mr.
Ward?
Chair, I make a recommendation, or I make a motion that the Finance Committee supports Article 2.
Okay, motion made. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion about the motion or the article?
Mr. Kane, I do have one quick question that I should have asked when we were at the public hearing.
Sure.
Do we know what our balance is in free cash?
I want to say it's $700,000, somewhere in that vicinity. Is that correct, Mr. Hickey? You're muted.
You're muted.
Wow. Yes, after the free cash is used as proposed in this warrant, we'll have just over $700,000, I believe, available prior to fiscal 20's free cash being certified.
Very good. Thank you. Right. Any other questions or comments? All right, the motion to recommend Article 2 with the special town meeting. Dr. Ward?
Aye.
Mr. Courts?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Delay?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. All right, moving on to the annual town meeting. Committee reports, it's been our habit to make a report. And I think that we ought to plan on doing that. I'd like to get some informal input on a particular topic that any of the committee members feel that we should be reporting on. In time for us to perhaps meet before the town meeting and finalize a report. So we move on to the committees, establish and discharge committees. And then entertain a motion.
You say that we cannot pass over. Can I make a motion to take no action?
Sure.
Because Mr. Hickey doesn't believe there's going to be anything on this that we're going to need to do, so.
Okay. So there's nothing to recommend, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Mo, are you talking about Article 1 or Article 2?
Article 2. Article 1, we just, encourage our chair to do his usual due diligence and create a wonderful report for us to.
Rise to the challenge. Article 2, I know that when we went through it, Mr. Hickey said that he believed it was going to be passed over because there are no committees that are need to be created or disbanded.
So why is it that we cannot just take a motion to pass
I don't
over?
know. I'm not sure about that.
I'll make a motion.
I
to
think
pass
because
it.
because the warrant is the Board of Selectmen's purview. I think there could be a motion from the floor to pass over. I don't know if it would be an action. I think we need to respond to the articles as they exist right now.
So is a motion to take no action acceptable?
I think we ought to make a recommendation or not recommendation. I guess it would be my feeling that if there were committees, we would make a recommendation or not make a recommendation. And the way the article reads, it presumes there are committees.
I will make a motion to recommend Article 2.
Okay, there's a motion made. Do we hear a second?
A second.
Okay, seconded, Doug. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right. The next one, we're not required to make a recommendation. So Article 4 is the senior tax work-off.
Why are we not required to on Article 3?
I don't know. It says on my cheat sheet here, it says not applicable.
That doesn't make sense to me because Article 2 is simply committees. Article 3 is finance.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Hickey.
I apologize. Madam Doctor, I guess I should have said. I think Article 3 is something that the board should vote to approve or not to approve. I don't think there should have been an NA there. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Finance Committee supports Article 3.
Okay. We would recommend Article 3. Do we hear a
Correct.
second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye.
And the wife votes aye.
All right, Article 4 is the senior tax work-off for $8,800.
I'll make a motion that the Fincom recommends Article 4.
All right, is motion made
I would second that.
and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 5 is the appropriation of $25,000 to Community Action Committee.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 5.
All right, there's a motion to recommend Article 5.
Second.
And a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 6 is the general government budget of $15,254,266.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 6.
There's a motion made. There's a second and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 7 is the Water Department Enterprise Fund.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 7.
Okay, there's a motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second that motion.
And seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The Article 8 is the wastewater enterprise budget, $1.4 million. All
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 8.
right, I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any questions or
Was that
discussion?
Mr. Delay?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 9 is the transfer station budget for $212,000.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 9.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded by Mr. Courts. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 10 is the school budget of $13,787,000.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 10.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second that motion.
All right, seconded by Mr. Kent. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 11 is Monty tax assessment of $837,000.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 11.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Courts. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 12, acceptance of the layout on a portion of Central Street. That, Mr. Hickey, in my sheet here says NA. Is that another typo?
Which, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Article 12?
On 12. I mean, there's no reason why we wouldn't be recommending that
Yeah.
I can think of.
I agree.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 12.
All right, motion made,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Courts. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 13 is authorization to acquire temporary and permanent easement on the Central Street project, up to $150,000.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 13.
Second.
All right, got a motion seconded by Mr. Delay. And any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. 14 is the issuance of long-term debt for the senior center repairs of $3,762,000.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 14.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Questions or discussion?
Just a couple of comments, Mr. Chair. For any of the public that's still listening, they've talked about the old Murdoch building as a historic landmark and great for the town, but no one really talked about what the senior center does. And their fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. Last fiscal year, in spite of being closed for 4 months, they delivered 21,998 meals to the elders in the community. They transported 2,370 elders to doctors, dentists, various appointments that they had, which totaled a total of 24,000 miles. And to Mr. Kent's comment earlier, they distributed 3,500 bags of grocery for a total of 24,500 pounds of food. So they don't just have an office there. They look after the elders in this community. Thank you.
My comment is it's a clear need that the town has, and both from the perspective of a historic building and the fact that we use that building for the senior center. But as the finance committee's representative on the capital planning committee, I'm concerned that we take these projects out of context, that we don't look at the big picture and say, well, we got a lot of needs. We've got the fire station that needs an addition. We've got this. We've got, as people have mentioned earlier tonight, a whole load of roads that could use a lot of repair. I'm not opposed to the project. I'm opposed to the piecemeal approach that we use to address our capital needs. And I'll reflect that in my vote. So we got a motion to.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, my question earlier was simply about a plan B or a plan C in case the people look at it from a property tax during COVID and unemployment perspective. That's what I was looking at, just to see if we had backup plans, just in case something didn't pass, because we know how people can be on override. So that's why I had asked the question.
Yep.
Well, Mr. Chair, they also need to understand that 2 of the 3 entrances to the senior center are already blocked because of falling debris. If that 3rd one is blocked, the center fails. So it will be closed.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the finance committee? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote. This is on issuance of long-term debt for the senior center. Dr. Ward?
Aye.
Mr. Courts?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye, because it's up to we the people.
Always is. Mr. Delay?
Aye.
All right, the chair votes nay. So it passes on a 4-to-1 vote for to be recommended. Article 15, permanent repairs to the portion of Mellon Road. There was a lot of discussion around this tonight from a lot of the residents in that area. So I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I vote that the Finance Committee does not recommend this article.
Okay, there's a motion to not recommend Article 15. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Courts. Any questions or discussion?
No, only that, I mean, it was clear from the conversation that the residents of Mellon Road they view this as going backwards, and they're clearly against it. So I guess we need to vote based on that.
Thank you, Mr. Delay. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Kent, I'm sorry.
Yeah, regarding everybody's public input, the residents of the road, Article 15, listening to a huge concern they have about devaluation of property amongst many other aspects that are passionate to them. I'm definitely, at this stage of the game, after reading the letter in our packets along with this, not in favor of this article, just to my humble feelings, sir.
Title to it. All right, so we've got a motion not to recommend Article 15. It's been seconded. Any other questions or discussions? All right, Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Quartz,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 16, temporary repairs to a portion of Mellon Road.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 16.
All right, there's a motion to support Article 16. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Quartz. Any discussion or questions?
So I do have a question, I guess.
Yep.
And again, maybe it's my interpretation, but it appeared to me that the residents also did not approve, did not want to move forward with this. Did anyone else understand that the same way?
My understanding was that from Mr. Hickey was that the repairs to Mellon Road would revert back with this article to what they always had been, and that is what the residents wanted.
Yeah, that was my understanding too, that it provides some maintenance and repair to the road before winter. I'm seeing some nods from some of the people I can see in the audience. So I think they seem to be in support of this article, Mr. Delay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got a motion to approve Article 16 or to recommend Article 16. Dr. Ward?
Aye.
Mr. Quartz?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Delay?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Article 17 is to fund the wastewater deficit for $40,000.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 17.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Quartz. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none. Dr. Ward?
Aye.
Mr. Quartz?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Delay?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Article 18 is for the capital items out of free cash, $165,000.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 18.
All right, there's a motion to
Second
recommend, and it's seconded by whom?
by Doug.
Doug? Okay, thanks, Doug. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward?
Aye.
Mr. Quartz?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Delay?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Article 19, withdrawal of deficit reserve for $323,000 that will be put in a reserve account under the jurisdiction of the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chair, I vote the motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 19.
All right, motion
Second.
seconded by Mr. Quartz. Any questions or discussion?
Just one question. If I understood it correctly, this would go to free cash if not used during FY21. And is there a way to have it go directly back to a stabilization account rather than free cash?
Well, it'll come out as free cash because when they balance the books at the end of FY21, it'll be money allocated that didn't get spent. All right. To go into stabilization will require a vote of the town meeting. So what could happen is that somebody could make a warrant article a year from now to move that money into stabilization, but it would require a warrant article to do so and a 2/3 vote.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or discussions? All right, hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Article 20 is to transfer remaining sums from the capital accounts into the general fund to offset long-term debt, $682.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 20.
Okay, Article 20 is moved,
Second.
seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Transfer sale of town property to the general fund to offset long-term debt costs $14,000.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the FinCom recommends Article 21.
Second that motion.
Seconded by Mr. Kent. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
the chair votes aye. Article 22, acceptance of Bayberry Circle and Pinewood Drive.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 22.
All right, there's a motion to recommend Article 22.
I'd second
Yes.
that.
Do I need a second? Who was that?
Mr.
Doug.
Okay, Doug seconded. Questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Authorize the select board to accept a parcel of land known as Grout Park.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 23.
The motion to recommend Article 23,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Courts. Any questions or discussion?
Only question I have, Mr. Chair, is you read that it was found on page 210 of the Registry of Deeds, and maybe I have an old warrant that says 211, which is correct.
Not having the Registry of Deeds right in front of me. What article is this?
Article 23.
Article 23.
Yeah.
The very last line, is it page 210 or 211?
211.
Thank you.
Needed something to break up the tension here.
You're getting kind of used to the routine, you know?
All right.
I think we're all doing good for a long meeting.
I think you're right, Keith. All right, so we've got a motion and a seconded and no more corrections. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Scoop it up fast. Aye.
Mr. Delay. Doug?
Aye.
Okay. And
Yep.
the chair votes
I
aye.
think you're sleeping with your eyes open, Doug.
Article 24 is the sale of property on Summer Drive.
I make a motion that the FinCom recommends Article 24.
All right, motion made to recommend Article 24,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Courts. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Courts,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Second, Article 25 is sale of property on stiff piece of property on Summer Drive.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 20.
Second that motion.
All right, moved and seconded by Mr. Kent. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Quartz,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
and Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Consideration of the funding of the Gold Star property tax exemption.
Mr.
Is
Chair,
Article 26.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 26.
Second that motion.
All right, motion is made,
It's a
seconded.
standing
Any
ovation.
questions or comments? Hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Quartz,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, and Article 27, citizen petition for the maintenance and repair of portion of Mellon Road.
Mr. Chair, I have one question of Mr. Hickey that I should have asked during public hearing. If the boss accepts this road by prescription, do we have to do any upgrades to it to accept it as a town road, or can it be accepted as it is now?
My understanding is it can be accepted as it is now. And then the.
Thank you.
The repairs would be
Right.
scheduled.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommends Article 27.
All right, hear a motion to recommend. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Questions? All right, hearing none. Dr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. Quartz,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Delay,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Mr. Hickey, I have to tell you that as I look through my summary sheet here, I realized that all those NAs doesn't mean not applicable. It means there was no money involved.
I won't argue with you, sir.
Yeah.
See, we can still learn things, Mr.
My
Kane.
apologies, that's right. Well, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, although, quick discussion. If you could get thoughts that you'd like considered for a report to me by the end of the week. All right, and I'll just kind of summarize that and get it back out to people. And I mean, we can't do business by email, but I think we can, we can't take any action on it that.
If it's sent to you without sending it to the entire board, it's not business, I think,
Right.
because it's simply giving you direction. One thing that we usually do, though, is hold a finance committee meeting prior to the town meeting on that same night. And I have
Yeah.
a conflict with that because as the warden for the elections, I have to be at the check-in table until we have a quorum. So I
Right.
cannot.
Frankly, I'd like to, because we need to act on the report. I'd like to
Right.
schedule a meeting next week,
Okay,
which gives us, a week and a half to get our thoughts together, put together a report, and then meet and act on the report. 16th, 17th, somewhere in that area.
you could
Yeah.
even do it the 21st, which would give you 2 weeks to put it together.
It would, but I won't be here the 21st. I'm going to be away that week.
Okay, so anytime that 15th, 16th, 17th, whatever you choose.
Okay.
I'm not available on the 17th, but the other days are fine.
Okay.
We're down to
Right.
5, 15, and 16.
All
All
right.
at once.
So get me your thoughts as soon as possible, and I can get something out and send it to each of you individually, so you're not communicating with each other. And I'll take a look and see which of those days. I'll check with town hall and find out. Make sure we're not conflicting with any of the other committees. Let's see what's open.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Kane.
Thank
On
you.
our agenda is member comments and public comments.
Yep.
So we should go back to that.
We certainly should. Thank you for reminding me of that. All right, start with member comments. Any comments, anybody from members? All right, open up to the public. Any comments from the public?
I just
Mr.
want to say
George?
thank you, guys.
Well, it's complicated stuff, and hopefully, that issue gets resolved to everybody's satisfaction. Yes, this is.
We appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Dr. Ward?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourned, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 It is
Thank you.
9:58 for the record.
9:58.